Oh my God. Oh my God. So while I've been on vacation with my family, just recently we went and watched a movie I had no idea about. I never heard anything in regards about it before going in to see it. A movie called Homestead, an apocalypse thriller, we'll call. Telling the story of several families who come to live at a mansion slash castle slash just compound as they try and wait out the end of the world. And I gotta tell you, I'm actually flabbergasted at this probably being the first time I've reviewed a movie on my channel that I cannot express deeply enough of my level of don't give a shit about. Because usually I only invest in watching movies I think I'm going to enjoy, and because of that, typically I usually enjoy them. This I had no idea about, and I went and watched it because the rest of my family was going and they said, Dylan, get in the car. And I went, okay. I should have stayed home. So with that being said, let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly about Homestead. The good. The bad. Well, let me just start with the overall message of the story. And for anyone who thinks after that, like, oh, well, he's just being hyperbolic, he's clearly just oversimplifying things, I'm going to get into all the details in just a moment. But let's talk about what the message of this story is. And that would be, you can survive the apocalypse too, so long as you're rich and believe in God. Or the benevolence of billionaires. That's it. That is the message of the entire movie. It is the most self-gratifying piece of schlock I have ever had the displeasure of watching. Let me get into the details of the film, and I promise I'm not going to be hyperbolic. I'm not going to oversimplify things. I'm going to convey the information as it was conveyed to me. All of the major families that come to the homestead are easily living on 6 to 7 figures. Because they're all in these big, nice houses in the suburbs, lots of technology. Some of them have electric cars. All of them have these multiple big rig vehicles. And not to mention, more than a few of them have entire fucking arsenals in their garage of just all these different weapons hung up in these special cages to keep everything locked up. Just in their garage alone, that is easily $100,000 worth of weapons, if not more. Period. And they all converge to this place called the Homestead because they all conveniently know this billionaire that lives there that controls the whole place. Now, the movie, I don't think at any point actually indicates that the man is a billionaire, but just going off the information that's provided, he's living in this massive mansion, this gated mansion community that is surrounded by walls, has hundreds of acres at his disposal. His mansion is built like a castle, no joke. Quite literally, there is a scene where the guy who owns the property is in this hangar with literal guns up the wall, higher than you would need a ladder to get those guns off the wall, filled to the brim with weaponry. Not only that, has the on-site staff of medical personnel, like 50 people acting as his security there. So you'll have to forgive me if I just use the term billionaire as a shorthand, because I don't find there being a lot of difference between someone who is 100-something millionaire and a billionaire. He's just super duper rich, okay? But they're nice people, don't get me wrong. The one family that they actually depict as poor, and they do so by showing he drives a rickety vehicle with his family that he loads up into. He doesn't have any guns or weaponry. Like, when the apocalypse starts, all he has is a bat, right? And once he arrives to the gated community of the homestead, after they've let in like several dozen families at this point, who have all about as much of a good standing relationship with the billionaire as he does, his and all the other poor families are the only ones locked outside and left to starve. The only reason they don't die is because of the benevolent housewife of the billionaire, who's also super religious, that gifts them all food of bread thanks to her benevolence, and she's able to feed the masses, the starving masses at their gate that they won't let in. It's exactly how it sounds. Where do I even go from here? Because ultimately, like, not a lot happens in this apocalypse, because most of the things that happen in this movie, like, that revolve around the characters, has them standing on a porch, sipping coffee, and whining about how bad they have it when they are able to take the 50 security guards out into the woods and train them with BB guns in order to get them prepared for the coming masses that are going to try and ransack this place that never come, aside from the few that sit peacefully outside the gate waiting to starve rather than fucking off to somewhere to try and find food for themselves. No. It's much easier to sit outside the gate and whine about their children starving to death than going and looking for food somewhere else when they're already being denied here. The most exciting part of the film happens literally at the very end, where some bureaucrat guy from the city shows up with a SWAT team of people who are there specifically to ransack the homestead, take the resources, take the guns, all for themselves, in order to redistribute it to the people. You know, those people who are starving, who need this stuff, yada, yada, yada. And it's really here where you see one of the most major, like, character tone flips I've ever seen in a movie. Because at the start, you are introduced to one of the family's friends who's an ex-military guy who is establishing himself as this obnoxious, pseudo-masculine
lone wolf type guy, brother. I'm a lone wolf, bro.
And quite literally, when the family is leaving for the homestead and they're bringing this guy with him, he is witnessing, like, all the chaos that's happening at a convenience store and these people fighting over ransacking all the toilet paper. And he literally walks up to the one unarmed guy, knocks him down, and puts a gun in his face, ready to blow his head off, and only gets talked down by the main character family, the main guy who acts as the security chief to the homestead, like, once he gets there. And from that point on, all that guy does is piss and moan about, bro, we need to take control of this place. Bro, we need to get a lockdown on who's allowed in here. You just say the word, bro. We'll take control of this place together. Me and you. And then when the police show up to ransack the place, he's been so hardcore, one, to defend, even if it means shooting people who don't deserve it. All of a sudden it's, bro, we can't do this. Bro, this is wrong. Those are the police. We don't shoot at the police, bro. All of a sudden it just becomes clear it's, oh, you're just a bully bootlicker with a gun. Okay. The LDS syndrome that this guy has been showcasing suddenly makes a hell of a lot more sense. And mind you, when the SWAT team shows up, the guy who gets out of it, who is with the bureaucrat that's coming to take all the stuff, both knows the billionaire as well, because apparently everyone in the state this guy lives in knows the billionaire on a first name basis. But the head of the SWAT team shows up and acts confused that the billionaire is living at his house, because he gets out and, I shit you not, goes, oh, what are you doing here? To which the billionaire has to reply, well, I live here, Bob. So you have this face-off between the SWAT team and this ex-military force of security for the homestead. They are at point-blank range. Tensions are supposed to be high, and the bureaucrat is losing his shit while the head of the SWAT team is trying to talk that guy to, like, calm that guy down, until he suddenly pulls out a gun, points it at the billionaire, and shoots. Now, here's where things get a little extra annoying, because when the firefighting, when the actual shooting happens, it is completely weightless. There is no impact to the shooting at all. And that's because I guess they didn't have the budget for guns that could like light up at the end to like shoot out, like airsoft guns that, you know, can create that little poof effect at the end of the gun to make it look like it's actually shooting something. I guess they couldn't actually afford those, and they decided that the best way to get around this issue and be as cost effective as possible for this major shootout scene was to either have the barrel of the gun just out of frame as they're shooting so that they don't have to do any of the visual effects work to put the firing effect coming out of the gun, or they just don't. And they just show the guys with guns, you know, shooting all over the place at people who are point blank from them. And they just overlay the sound of gun shooting, but nothing's coming out of the guns. And out of all the shooting that takes place, 2 people are hit. The billionaire at the very start and 1 SWAT team member. And everyone just decides, I think enough blood's been spilt in this apocalypse. Let's all just go and fuck off. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm that against religion in a lot of ways, but I haven't gotten to the point where I talk about the heavy religious tones that this movie just crowbars in the last quarter of this movie, where all of a sudden everything becomes about praising God, praying to God, and by God's mercy and by God's divine plan in this apocalypse, all of which being said by people who are the super rich and wealthy. This kind of talk barely even comes from the other wealthier families who are there to survive. It's just from the billionaire family. So all it really does is just convey this deep look of detachment from reality. Zero real world experience to have this kind of mentality in the apocalypse. Probably due to the fact that, you know, they're billionaires. They don't know how to work. And of course they believe in God because they've never actually struggled a day in their life. They're billionaires. And they probably think they're billionaires because it's God's blessings. Fuck off. Honestly, like the way I haven't even gotten into just certain plot elements that don't go anywhere because they're trying to lure you into watching more of this schlock. But like this opening film that should be what captures your attention the most does such a shit job of it. Even my family, who's pretty open-minded about watching any movie, drove the whole way back just going, yeah, I'm not interested in watching any more of that stuff. It's pretty shit. Such as this little girl who is able to, I guess, predict the future. And that's talked about not as much as it probably should, but she does show up a lot to stare at the camera with a weird little smile like a demon, like when shit is starting to go down that she probably should be just kind of out of the way for, but she's just there. Also, the amount of times that a conversation takes place between the main character guy, who's the head of the security for the billionaire, where he's trying to convey to the billionaire that there are these elements that they shouldn't be allowed to have stand, like an encampment of refugees just off on the other side of the border of their territory. And he's trying to tell the guy, like, we can't just have this encampment of these military-age people a stone's throw from us who could just come over the hill at any time and overwhelm our defenses. And the billionaire just going, yeah, but so how about another game of airsoft? And the conversation is just never brought up again. The dude just groans about it and just fucking moves on. I mean, I guess all of those elements are taking place with the idea that you're going to invest the time in watching the other movies to understand like how those elements eventually come into play, but nah, bro, that's not how this works. You have to make the first movie interesting enough to warrant watching the next ones, and it doesn't work because it sucks. Like, this film really feels like someone who has no real world experience, probably because they're very wealthy, who has a deep love of God and really wanted to make something that praises God, just in a interesting environment. And all they conveyed in this exhausting film was they had no concept of reality. And the ugly truth. So now let me get to the point where I just tell you the ugly truth and my true honest feelings about this film. It's not good. It's just self-gratifying religious schlock that's done so poorly. All it really does is hurt any kind of argument that the person I know is trying to make that's supposed to be some kind of positive light on the apocalypse. In this particular setting. Like, there's some hope that you can look forward to. I know that they're probably thinking, yeah, this is a good way of showcasing God's benevolence. But no, all it succeeds in doing is conveying, unless you're rich and believe in God, don't even fucking bother. Because otherwise you have to rely on the God-sanctioned benevolence of billionaires in order to make it through. So I've never done a rating for any film that I've ever done before until now. Like, if I had to do like a replay value kind of number system, I would sincerely put this movie at a -1. It's the only movie I walked out of theater like sincerely questioning whether or not should I ask for my money back? Am I going to be that person for the very first time in my life? Because I've never actually felt more like robbed of my money, and I didn't pay to see the film. I went with my family who already bought the ticket. Lord knows I watched several people stand up and walk out of the theater at the midway point, but that might have been due to the fact that at like 3 different occasions the film actually started to stutter and freeze, and I've never seen that happen in theaters before. I think it was like a sign from God that we shouldn't watch this movie. And they have the fucking audacity at the very end to have this little after credits thing where one of the actors shows up and is like, hey guys, thanks for watching this film, but if you'd like to, really pass along the season of giving, you should share this video with some of your friends, get them involved in coming to watch this in theaters. And my own mom literally said, I'm not that abusive, as we left the theater. So with all that being said, I cannot recommend this movie in any kind of good conscience. It's not entertaining. I think the only actual praise I could give the movie, if I was putting literally all of that aside and digging for anything that I could possibly view as a positive, is maybe the opening scenes where there's this interest with these guys who are on this boat that aren't supposed to be there, and they're activating what turns out to be a nuclear bomb. And then when you see the bomb go off and the environment change outside, it does look really crazy and kind of cool looking. But one scene, essentially at the start of the film, does not justify an entire fucking movie of rich people basically rubbing their wealth in the lower classes' nose. And that's all this movie accomplished in the entire film. Anyway, that's my take on the film. If you enjoyed it, I'm happy that you're happy. I'll say that. I don't think you're dumb for liking it. I don't think you're wrong for any reasons that you find to like a film, but those were my reasons why I didn't. And if you agree with them, say so in the comments below. If you didn't, say so in the comments below. Let's talk and see if we can find a way to converse about this film in a respectful manner. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked it, please give a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you. Bye!